Hello and welcome to another one of these videos where I talk about the design of a game. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than the other ones have been, whereas I'm going to be talking about just a game that I've played rather than a game that I already have something positive to say about or I already have something on my mind to talk about. This one, I just kind of played the game and then sat down and wrote out my thoughts of the different design or like different parts of the game and what I think about them. So today we're going to be looking at the game Stray. Stray is a very cute game where you play as a cat going through a civilization of robots, living underground in a time after humans have gone extinct to get back to the surface and find its family. It has beautiful visuals, a really nice story, and an amazing soundtrack. So one interesting thing about this game is that it is a platformer, but you are playing as a quadrupedal character, which has a lot of challenges in like programming and like designing and figuring out, because being quadrupedal, the character is a bit longer and has like two sets of legs, like one further forward and one further back. So when it comes to platforming, like you got to figure out like what are you going to do if the character lands on only the front legs or the back legs? Is the character going to fall, or is the front or back half just going to float in the air? There's an issue with that, and the way they fixed it in this game is kind of making the jumping automatic. You can do your jump by yourself, but then it locks you into an animation of the cat jumping, which I think is a good solution to it, because this game isn't meant to be like a Mario platformer or like Celeste, where it's like you have to do really precise, quick platforming with like precise movements in the air. Well, not so much. You don't have to do that so much in Mario, but in Celeste you have to do that. In this one, it's kind of more casual, and you're kind of just exploring the world and jumping up on top of things. So you really don't need that speed or precision while playing this game. It is interesting to see how they solve this issue with the platformer. There's probably a lot more stuff going on with quadrupedal platformers that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, because I haven't really gone too much into the design of them. But the one thing that I do know is this thing with the four legs. Another thing I felt about this game is that it was a bit grindy at points, having to collect everything, because in the game, a lot of the stuff the player has to do is just go around and talk to people and then collect things for them and then return to them with the stuff they collected. There's a few things I don't think are good about this. They did good in this game because they kind of gave a little bit of direction on where the player had to go. Like they had signs indicating where the destinations are. They had visuals telling you like, hey, this is this place, or like this is this shop, or this is this landmark. So you would have an idea of where to go. But that was kind of mainly for explicit quests, right? When someone is like requesting like, hey, can you go find me this item? Or hey, can you visit this location to meet this person? That's the only time that was really marked. There were other things that the player had to get, like in the first town they stop in, they have to get, or they don't have to, but they had the option to get like collect sodas, to purchase like music, like an unlockable. So I'll get more into this, my thoughts about this system later, but there were memories that the player could recall to learn a bit more about the history of the world, and one of the memories you would have to buy with this soda. But the way the player collects these sodas is by running around and interacting with vending machines around the world. And there are vending machines that don't give you sodas around the world, which is annoying, because you find a new vending machine and you're like, oh, I could get the soda, but then it doesn't give you the soda. And that's just my experience. Maybe I'm just bad at the game, but that's what happened to me. So it's kind of like there's these things the player needs to do and get, but sometimes there's no direction on where to go, which isn't great, because it kind of gets annoying and unsatisfying and frustrating when the player has to walk around a lot to find these things, and the player ends up being less inclined to try to get these things if it takes too much time and effort to find them. The game also had these memories that you could find as you ran around in the world and as you progressed through the game, which is cool, because these memories, as I said before, would tell you a little bit about the history of the world and like what happened and who characters are, or I guess who our companion character is. And it was really interesting and really cool, but I don't think they did it in a very good way. Yeah, they gave you hints, like you could look at the memory in the menu and get like a little staticky image of the location you would have to look at to find the memory, but that's kind of all they gave you. you'd have to walk around and try to find some obscure like graffiti on the wall, or like some obscure table with like a pot on it. And sometimes it's not always clear, because it's like, where is this graffiti? Where is this table supposed to be? And there's also a section of the game that, or I think there's a couple sections where there's memories that are completely missable, and like you can't go back to them to go and find them if you miss them. You run through it, and then that's it. If you miss the memories, you can't get the memories. And that's not great to have missable collectibles, because that also then discourages the player from finding them even more, because they're already hard to find. They're already tedious to find. And then you give them this scenario where they have to run through this section where they have memories that they could find, but can only go through once. And then if they miss it, they're gone. It's not great to have collectibles that are missable, because then it's already tedious to find these memories as it is. And then on top of then the player being forced to miss some, it's kind of discouraging to the player. It'll kind of make them less inclined to continue trying to find these, especially if they already missed some that they can't find again. What they did good about these collectibles is they did give a reason for the player to want to collect them, but didn't force the player to collect them. Like with each memory, they gave story, so anyone who's really interested in the story and wants to learn more about what happened in the world would have a reason to go find these memories, to go out of their way from the regular course of the game to find these memories. And same with other collectibles, like in the first town, you could find sheet music and then give it to a robot who would play the sheet music, and then you could listen to these nice songs that they played. And then if you're not interested in learning about the history of the world or listening to this music, you didn't have to, and you could just continue with the main story. There were some quests that the player was given that seemed to be nothing other than just extra stuff for the player to do. I didn't end up doing them because I was kind of frustrated with the game at that point, but they never gave an explicit like, hey, do this and I'll give you something. Because especially in this game, it's like, okay, you're going to give me something, but what is that going to do for me? Like, there's no items in this game. There's nothing you could give me that would be helpful for me. Sure, you could improve my experience by giving me like a picture that has a story attached to it, or like, I guess, one of the memories, but like there was no incentive to go and do this quest because it was a bit tedious, and I kind of stopped caring about the collectibles at that point because I had already gone past so many missable ones that I couldn't go back and get if I wanted to, that it's like, I don't see a point. I'll just look it up online. I want to get everything. I want to get the full picture. I don't want to get like bits and pieces. A lot of the stuff the player had to do in the game for the characters also was just a bunch of fetch quests. And I'm not a fan of fetch quests personally, because like if you bring it down to its bare bones, it's kind of just going from point A to point B back to point A over and over and over again. So it's kind of just go back and forth, which isn't that exciting gameplay. Sure, if you add platforming or parkour like Stray does, like Stray, you have to jump around as the cat. You get to see the nice cat's movements. The moving around feels nice. If you add that, sure, it makes it more enjoyable, because kind of the point of the game is to, I guess, walk around and move like a cat. That's okay, but also after a while, after the excitement of moving around as a cat wears off, then a lot of the appeal goes away, and then it's kind of just like walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like later on, they do vary it up. The walking back and forth is only at the beginning, which is good, because then later there's a lot of running, or then just like walking straight, or there's a stealth section which makes it more interesting, where I have to like avoid being seen by these robots that are flying around. But they do have a little bit of like fetch questing in there, which kind of is meh. A lot of the things the player had to do was very fitting for a cat. There was a lot of jumping around and running around and dodging enemies, because, you know, cats are very agile and they jump around. They can get to places very easily, and they're very stretchy, so they can like also jump to higher places. And cats are also very sneaky because they are predators, and they gotta be sneaky. So you do a lot of sneaking around. There's like I just mentioned the stealth section, there's a stealth section that the player has to do, but then they also do have to like sneak into other places later on as well. And overall, I think this game was a good cat game. I think they did a good job at making a game centered around being a cat. Like the mechanics and everything the player had to do was great, like jumping around and running around was great and well fitted for a cat. But a lot of the elements of this game kind of didn't make for an interesting game. Like if it was just a game where you were a dude walking around and doing all these things, it would kind of be boring. Like the story was good, but like the gameplay was kind of just pretty typical. And the only draw for this game was that you're a cat doing this stuff. And yeah, that's my thoughts about this game. Thanks for watching. If you're here at this point, thanks for sticking around. I'm really enjoying this series. I'm having a lot of fun. I think this is the 4th one, I think. I do have a few other games lined up, but I am running out of ideas for games. So if there's a game you want me to talk about, leave it down in the comments and I'll see if I can get enough stuff out of it to talk about it. I also streamed myself playing this game over on my Twitch channel. I have the VOD uploaded on my VOD channel if you want to go check it out and check out my thoughts while I'm playing the game. You could go do that, or just watch me play the game. You could also go do that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you suggest a game for me to talk about so I don't run out of games. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.